So now let's talk about useEffectHook. So that is pretty much like any other hook in React hooks. So useEffect is another function, so which will be called after every render or every update of the DOM, right? So what does that mean? So let's like useState, let's import useEffect, right? So useEffect is a little different compared to useState. So useState is about maintaining the state, but useEffect is about running some task, right, which we are calling it as an effect. The task could be some updates to the DOM, or you could fetch some data from external source, and then the data, if you want to use that in your DOM, then that would be the right place you can write that code. And also these effects of two types, right? There are effects which requires some cleanup after you unmount the component, or there are some effects as well that which doesn't require any cleanup, right? So in this case, updating the DOM or getting the data from external source doesn't require any cleanup, right? Once you get the data, you will just set that to the state of the component, and that will be used in the component in the render method. And the same is the case for the document update, right? The DOM update, if you update it, it will just gets updated in the function and it will be rendered, all right? But there are some tasks like subscribing to some events, and when the component is live, then the subscription event is active, then you will receive the notifications and use that. But if component gets unmounted, then you wouldn't want to keep that subscription active, so you would want to clean that up. But for now, let's focus on simple use case. Let's see and how you can use this useEffect. So like I mentioned, useEffect is also a function which will be called on after every render, every update. First time it renders, or anytime any update happens, that function will be called, right? So first let's see what useEffect will take. So it takes a function, right? And then it will execute that function after every render. So first of all, let's verify if this useEffect is being executed after every render, right? So now useEffect, let's say useEffect is called, right? Let's verify that if it is being called or not, right? So let's put this here. See, useEffect is called. Why it is called? Because when you save this, the server renders. My server is running locally, so it gets refreshed, right? If you refresh, see, it called 2 times. So when this DOM is getting updated, render method is called. So the render method here is kind of the return thing, right? So that gets executed every time, right? Multiple times it gets executed. So every time it updates, it renders first time, it calls the useEffect. So now we established useEffect is called every time. Since it is called, then how could we utilize that capability to our advantage, right? So let's say if I want to do some task here, I want to update the DOM, right? So I just wanted to update document background color, right? Document dot body dot style. I just want to update this style background color to green. Once I save it, see, it gets updated because first it rendered this HTML, and then after that it executed the useEffect function. Now we established the function is called and the task is being executed. So let's make it a little bit interesting. So here in this component, we are setting the counter, right? We can say if counter not equal to 0, then I would want this to be green, right? Else in all the other cases, I just want it this color to be white, right? Once I save that, see, now the counter is 0. That's why it is updating the color to white. What happens if I increment the value? See, it changed to green. All non-zero values, it is green. Now decrementing, now it turns to 0, then it turns to white. So the whole point is you're utilizing this effect, you're running this effect so that it gets updated to the DOM. And so in this case, the example we used is we are updating the DOM. Instead of that, you could also run some API calls here. So you can run some code. I can go over that in the next video due to the shortage of time, but we can run API talking to some source and getting the data, right? So that data, all that API calls like using Axios or fetch, right? That we can write. This is the right place for that code, right? So now you understand what is useEffect and how it is being called and how it's being used, right? In the next video, we will talk more about, like, since you see this function is called many times, right? What if you want to avoid that? What if you want this function to be just called once based on some conditions? So let's say it is getting some data and that data gets updated to the state, but once it's updated, if there are no changes to the data, then we don't want this effect to be called to make it more performance oriented, right? So how do we do that? So we'll talk about all that in the next video. But for now, let's keep understanding of so far we talked about, in the previous video we talked about use state, and now it is use effect. It's all about running some effects, right? All right, we'll meet you in the next video. Thank you.